To order. Phyllis, could we have roll call?
Cam Clay.
Here.
Bill Carba.
Here.
Ken Meyer.
Here. And you were emailed a copy of the minutes from our January 3rd meeting. Cam wasn't here, I don't think, so Bill and I will have to approve those minutes.
So moved.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the same. First thing on the agenda is our contract with JPR, Kevin McCrory, for the First Street Riverfront Development Plan. That's going to be paid for through the Redevelopment Commission, and it's what, $10,500 if I recall? $10,500. So we just need to approve me to sign that so that Kevin can proceed with that.
Well, from the Redevelopment Commission.
From the Redevelopment, yeah, they'll have to sign it.
So moved.
Any questions there, Cam? Or?
$10,500.
$10,500 for the First Street
look at it?
Riverfront Plan.
Is that less than?
Yeah. We were originally thinking it could be as much as 25.
Yep. Yep. And then remember, I went back to the redevelopment and said, hey, since it's, because they were going to pay up to half
Yeah, they
of
paid all.
25, so they paid it all.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So there's
We got a motion?
Yep. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Next is approval to pay Fleming Excavating for pay application number 7 on the sewer project. Phyllis, what are the details?
Their payment is $71,103.89. And Bill Slyke has reviewed this and signed off on it, so he's okay with it.
Make a motion to accept that. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you.
Now, do we know the 7 of how many?
I'm sorry?
7 of how many? Do we know that?
Let me see. Balance to complete, $652,332. Yeah.
I think
It's under
they
budget.
thought maybe one more
Yeah, and that probably won't be
change
good.
order.
Yeah.
One more this winter or one more in the spring?
I thought he said, I thought there was one more coming, but unless they ran into something else, that may be it.
Yeah, I know we're coming down the home stretch.
All right.
Yeah. It doesn't look like it because there's still so much mud and paving that needs done. But no, Cam, you weren't here, but at the State of the City, Ann told me just the day before we had quite a bit of rain a couple weeks ago. The river got up to 15 feet, and she called me and was excited because normally in a 15-foot river, several backup pumps would come on.
I think she said 4.
Yeah, 4 or 5
Four,
would
yeah,
run.
four.
And
All the time.
she said in that rain event, when the river got up that high, it went up to 4 for part of a day, and then while the river was still up that high, it went back down to 2 to 3 pumps throughout, which she said is what it is during a normal river event. So now, I have a question for Tim. Has your business building basement been okay through this? 'Cause we've had 2 pretty good chunks of rain.
Yeah, to my knowledge, we haven't experienced any backups. Like,
Good.
You know, we haven't had 4 feet of sewage water in our basement like that.
So no, Ann was excited with that, and then her and I talked a little bit more. She said really the from Jefferson Street on out to Kikianga is the next area, and she said it's not near as old as what we've just replaced, and hopefully we'll be good to go for a little while here, and we can probably start our post-construction monitoring of the river flow here before long.
Okay.
So, yep, that's all good. Since Melissa nor Jeremy are neither here yet, let's talk about the code enforcement while we can. You wanted to talk a little bit more code enforcement tonight, didn't you, or not?
Well, yeah, I think with all council here,
Okay, wait till...
I'd like to have their opinion on which direction to go. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got Jeremy, who has some recycling quotes for concrete. He's not here
I
yet.
have them if you want them.
Okay, let's just go over that. Before we go on
It's
him.
for concrete crushing.
Concrete recycling, which is in his budget. It's a
Right.
budgeted item.
Yeah.
And did he get more than one bid?
There's 2 quotes.
2 quotes.
Yeah. One's from TAWA Mulch and Landscape Supply. It's $6.80 per ton, which if the other bid had the actual tonnage on, so I just took that amount and times it by that, comes up to $31,728.80. And then in their email said, also I'm placing another bid, if we should get that project and yours awarded, we will deduct $1,000 off your final invoice because that will save us money on mobilization. He has another job here in Decatur, I guess.
That's from the TAWA?
Mhm.
Okay.
And the other one is Go Green. That's the one he's used previously, and it's for $30,000.
So this one, based on the same tonnage, would be $31,728, but he'll deduct $1,000, so it's $30,728.
Right.
And this one's $30,000 even.
Yeah.
Gosh, I wonder who we used in the past.
We
Go
did.
Green.
Yeah.
Go Green?
It's always
Okay.
And I think it's 32,000 in it, that you, if you figure that out by tonnage.
I took 4,666 tons times 6.80, and it came down to 31,728.
Okay.
Almost 32.
Almost 32,
Yeah.
okay. I would
Okay.
still go with the green. I
They're
mean,
the-
we
they're
use
the
them before.
cheapest.
Yeah, even if we save $1,000, it's still,
Yeah. Okay.
because we got a track record with them too.
Yep.
So is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept that, unless you
With
want to
Go
wait
Green.
for Jeremy. I mean, maybe better, in case he's got a problem with that company.
Well, yeah.
You would have gotten a bid from them
If he wasn't satisfied with
yeah.
it. And we've used them in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now Jeremy's just texted me here. Let's see what he says.
I'm coming.
We're ready. Capital letters. Now. Are you okay with Go Green? We'll know in just a second.
I was going to say, did you say, does he have a problem with Go Green?
Yeah, I just asked him that. So are you okay to go with Go Green?
We got a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
Motion on the floor. He says, I'm on my way. Was Melissa in her office when you guys came in front?
I did not.
She wasn't here when I
Okay.
opened the door.
We're not gonna, well, I guess when the rest of the council gets here, when you talk about the code enforcement, that'll take a little while. So Cam, where were you the last couple of weeks?
Oh, while we're waiting, can you sign these certificates from last meeting? These are for the fire department
Newport, Rhode Island.
and the police officers. There's 2 copies of each. Thank you.
Home of all officer training is in War College. Naval War College. I was not at the Naval War College.
And you were doing what? Were you an instructor?
Certified as an instructor. Got a certification to do Myers-Briggs, MBTI personality type. So I'm a certified instructor for that, so I can be one of D1 city employees.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd like to find out what I'm best suited to do.
Yeah. Explain why there's conflict within the workplace. So it wasn't anything arduous. It was just,
Were you gone 2 weeks? Or?
Are you required to do that, Ken?
well, required to do 2 weeks of training a year.
So you got your 2 weeks out of the way already, and will you have to do anything else this year?
Yeah.
Some weekends?
About 8 more this year, traveling and teaching. I go to second week in February. I go to Minneapolis to teach a course there. Keeps it interesting. The only problem with being gone is the fact that you have that's full of work to do
When you get back. And a family that's looking for you, you know.
Oh yeah, that's good.
My niece is in Washington,
Washington State?
no, D.C. On the inauguration.
Oh.
She's doing she's in the bomb squad.
Okay.
So she's checking on bombs and making sure there's no bombs in Washington. So she was in New York just a couple weeks ago doing the same function.
Really?
So she's on that deal. So it's pretty neat. So she's at the inauguration.
Oh. I've been mad out.
I guess that's just a matter.
I actually went to George Bush's first one, 2001.
Did you?
But it was mad out.
It'd be Nellie's grandchild. Yeah.
The,
She just graduated from West Point, well, a couple years ago, so she's...
the novelty building on Washington Street will come down next week.
Well, taking
Wow, how nice. That'll be a neighborhood improvement.
Yeah, we're capping off the water for the
sprinkler.
fire suppressant system this Friday. Plumbing would have tore it down sometime yet this week, but we couldn't get the locates done from Buckeye Pipeline in time. So it'll come down next week.
Where?
On Washington Street, across from the old Ruan building, Keith Gerber owns it, and they'll tear down back to the part where he's utilizing it. That's going to look so weird with that building down.
It will.
Been there.
Shluka called me up today and asked how long that building's been there, and I said, well, it was built in the early 30s, like 1932, and in 1952 it burnt down to the ground from a spark on one of the railroad steam engines. Got up on the roof and burned it down, so they rebuilt that front section in 1952 along with the two long barrel roof units that go down 10th Street. And I came in 1967, and then we started building all the other buildings up to make it a full under roof complex. And then in 1978 we built that big building back there where Bay County was. So, and then the Wayne Novelty actually went away in 1989 because that's when a guy by the name of Oosby came out of McGraw, New York, and we started building silverware chests there in 1989, and then he was there for about 10 years, and then he couldn't buy the building from Brattmiller, so he went away.
So like those silverware chests were those predominantly like walnut and oak and whatever, hardwoods?
A lot of maple. A lot of them were maple. But yeah, they went to the different areas that sold silverware.
Right.
We'd make like 4,000 a day.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
that's
yeah,
amazing.
I'm sorry, a week.
Oh, okay, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So yeah, and then New York made about the same amount. So at that time, then everything got imported, and then everything was offshore. So that's why that went away.
So that factory was kind of similar to Decatur Industries, only they made more smoking.
Actually, Decatur Industries came from that factory.
Did it?
Yeah. And back when I came in '67, their biggest product was cedar chests that And they put candy in and sold a lot of them to the Chicago area that made candy. And then we made boxes for card index boxes for the government there that had a little Fowler plate in them, and you just put your cards in there. And then, of course, that went away to set aside areas, and everything that we made for the government eventually just went away to set aside. In other words, prison systems or minority firms, and that's why Wayne Novelty just kind of went away.
Where's Dick Stewart work now?
He owned a company called Precision Woodcrafters, which was us from 89 to 99. And he worked for Tritech, and he has Precision Woodcrafters yet there, and he, the New York company makes product for him. So yeah, he manages Tritech.
Where's this place at?
It's right on Grant Street.
Oh, okay.
It says Precision Woodcrafters.
I know where you mean.
There's a little building right there.
So what does he build there then, Bill?
Pardon?
What does he build then?
He didn't build anything.
Oh.
He just kind of sells and then
Okay.
finds suppliers to make his product. So
Interesting.
I tried to help Shaluka with as many dates as I could remember, but I said, don't forget, Bob. I said, I'm old. I'm very old, and my memory is gone. And he said, I know what you mean. And it was crazy, so I came home, or Joanne came home. She was at church, and she came over, and she said, I said, Shaluka just called me, wanted some dates, wanted me to tell some dates and whatever. And she said, I bet that was fun. And I said, yeah, but you know the neat thing about it, there's nobody old enough that can remember those dates. So even if I make a wrong date, I think I'm pretty clear, you know. So yeah, those buildings, the two in the front that he's tearing down was built in the early 50s.
I went by there the other day, and I happened to look at the roof and the gutter.
All the weeds.
Oh my word, there's some
It's
trees.
like a tree,
growing up
yeah.
Well, you think code enforcement would get on that?
I thought it
You
was-
did, that's why they're taking it
I thought it
down.
was one of those green roofs, you know, that...
Yeah, I can take credit for that. It's about time you did that, Keith. I told you to take that down a few years ago, yeah.
Gives a new meaning to greenhouse.
Well, a lot of the places in big cities now are going to green plants
On their roofs.
the roofs.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be more energy efficient.
No, Keith's done a good job there. He took over that building and he's done well. So I think he's going to make a
You riding
nice
a bike into town or
area
what?
there.
Well, it'll be different every time I go
This little
by.
girl's probably
sure.
hanging on his leg, won't let him
Well,
go.
that brick is so porous. It's like
10 minutes ago
you
he
run
said
your
it was
finger
on
and
his
it'll
way.
crumble.
Yeah, I hope Jeremy can utilize, because we talked to Jeremy, Keith and I, that he can utilize that brick and grind it up and help the city out for fill.
Is that
I think
true?
there's enough
That's my grandson.
Oh,
texture to that.
Keegan?
I mean, that is just
Well,
It's getting big.
Jeremy
Yeah,
thought
he
we
is.
could make fill out of it, so he just wanted to make sure what it was and what it composed of, and make sure it didn't have any, which I don't think it does. It's just kind of a tile.
Anne's come, gone, and she's back again.
Speaking of roofs,
What?
roofs, ceiling. Was there a
Problem here?
Yeah.
We came in, yeah. We came in right out there. We came in one morning and the whole lobby was flooded. Ceiling tile was on the floor. Water was just pouring down.
Whoa.
There's a drain pipe
needs a signature up there.
Thank you.
that had some kind of a sleeve to go into another pipe. And it
Disconnected?
It got disconnected.
It froze, they thought, huh?
Yeah.
Got cold enough.
So, yeah, it was a mess. We immediately called Tim Ullman. He brought all of his fans and dehumidifier stuff over, and I think the whole fix is going to cost whatever his charges are, and $80 for a lift to go up and do the work. We did it ourselves. It took a couple minutes to clear it. Sure made a mess.
It's all out here.
Yeah,
It was a mess.
yeah, it was a mess.
But then pretty easy.
Gentlemen,
If you
thank
want
you for
to-
joining us. Since Jeremy's not here, let's just table the motion that was on the floor for the concrete recycling quotes, and let's talk about code enforcement. Again, yeah.
So when
Like,
you open up the
open up our folders again.
code enforcement, they haven't vastly improved in the last couple of years.
There he is.
And there's Melissa. Should we finish with Jeremy since he's here?
Jeremy, I already told him about the quotes and stuff, so if you want to add to it, it's up
Okay.
to you.
For probably the last 5 years, many of you know that instead of paying to get rid of our concrete, we regrind, recycle concrete. We use that for backfill material and such for all the water main leaks, everything. It's worked out very, very well. Being that we had 62 leaks last year, since February with the water department, we've got quite the pile of concrete and asphalt with the sidewalk projects and what the contractors have brought in. Talking with Dan today, the utilities is willing to put about $10,000 towards grinding. I'm looking at 15 to 20,000 on our portion. With the amount of projects we have coming up in 17, we're definitely going to need to get some stone ground up to get ready. This saves you around $3 a ton, plus the fuel, plus the wage to haul stone out of the stone quarry, which is, Craig knows also well, probably $5.50, $6 a ton. That's what it really comes down to in the end. So it's definitely a savings.
Yep.
To land or to dispose of this concrete, you're about $10 a cubic yard. So we're well ahead of what we need to do. So
Will they separate the asphalt and concrete, put it in
Yes.
different piles?
Yeah.
And they use a mag to pull the steel out, and you get recycling from the steel?
we end up with 3 different grades of stone, a 1, a 2, and then like a 73 combo. So about the only time we really buy any stone anymore is when we have to cover a parking lot or something where a lot of people's going to drive on it. So it actually works out really, really well.
Did you get bids for the recycle?
Yes.
And who'd you use?
Go Green is low. I think there's $6.42 a ton, and Tawa, which used to be Go Green, the guy quit and started his own company. Come out at what,
680.
Just a little higher.
680 or 682. So I'm comfortable with it. It's going to be a new crew grinding, but for 40 cents or right at 40 cents, I think we can take the gamble. And if it doesn't work out, then we can not use them next year. So.
When you planning on doing the grinding?
They've been calling for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
So they want to get in?
They want to get in and get
What
it
time
done.
period are you looking at?
It's about a week.
Week?
If we do the whole pile, if we can afford to do it, you're about 42 to 4,400 ton. That's a pretty average year of what you really get of finished material. So it's worked out well for us.
Yep.
We're running out of room. We have a lot of stuff coming up, so we definitely need to do it.
Get a store right on your city garage
Correct.
property?
Correct.
You got pads for that?
What's that?
You got a pad for that or a place for that?
Yep.
I think we already had a motion on the floor to accept Go Green, is that what they call it? Yeah. From Bill. and a
I will second.
Second from Cam, but then we stopped. We thought we better make sure that you don't have any
I
additional...
didn't know what you had on the agenda, so I was waiting on my wife to get
We're just blowing through stuff here. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. All right. That's all for you at the Board of Works.
I
unless
got
some other
I
things.
texted just about
Yep.
a couple things real quick, but
Okay.
go ahead, Craig.
How many tons are they going to crush?
It's right at 42 to 4,400. I can't remember what the total was.
4,660.
466, okay. Before, we've always just set a number and not to exceed dollar amount, but I think this year hopefully we can do the whole pile.
4,600, about rough, a little under 5,000. Okay, thank you.
So, and on a real active year, we go through that amount. So,
What else you got?
looking forward onto our crack seal program. Annually, we do a crack seal program throughout the city. It's fiberized crack seal. It's basically your preventive maintenance for your streets. We threw in a little extra money this year, which gets us above the bid threshold if we put it all in crack seal. There's $60,000 left or set aside in local road and street fund. That's all we use that fund for, is preventive maintenance. We're still doing some estimating. I'm not sure we're going to be at the 60,000. Could be 50, 40, 48, about 53,000. I talked with both Pavement Solutions, which has been a long-time contractor, and Kevin Jack from Pavement Maintenance out of Michigan. Both of them are willing to hold their price from last year, which is very good. Normally they're going up 5 to 7 cents a square yard every year. We're all the way down to 44 cents a square yard, which is really, really good. I guess before we get too far into the estimating, it's something that we've done every year. Are you guys willing to go with doing the amount of crack seal we've done in the past? And then if it gets to a bid amount, then we will just get the bid preparation paperwork together. I can't hardly see that we're going to be at the 50 because I have a little other project I'd like to do out of that fund. I have another little stretch that we need to seal, do a whole surface seal on. But
What time of year do they do this?
they get everything lined up now, and then they will do it until it's snowing. So technically they're probably working right now since it's been above freezing and not in and out of the rain. So
Okay.
I always like to try to get them out before April, or at least get them awarded before April, because if you wait much past then, they're pushing November, October, November, December, depending on where they start in the state. Pavement Solutions is the only one in the state of Indiana now doing the fiberized crack seal. So you can about imagine that you have to get on the list early. As they make their way through the state, they come through your city and do it and go on.
So Pavement Solutions is the company you want to use, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They were low last year at 44 cents a square yard. I don't remember exactly what Kevin's was. I think it was like 10 cents higher. So I would have to look when I get back to the office. So I'm just kind of looking for a little direction, see if you guys are okay with moving forward on.
Well, it's a budgeted item that you had in the budget, right?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
How old a pavement do you guys usually do that on?
What's that?
How old a pavement do you usually do that on?
3 to 5 year. I have basically a rule of thumb is I go 3, 5, and 7 years. How we've done it the last year and then going into this year, I've been doing just a whole section of the city. I started out on 13th Street last year, well actually 12th Street, worked all the way this way and south. I made it all the way to 5th Street, all the way down 5th and all the way to Adams. And then on 8th, 6th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, all the way to Adams there. So we did a real big stretch. This stretch would be from Bungie, from the probe station, all the way to the river, and then all the way to Adams. Basically, they just come in, go down every street, seal what needs to be sealed,
everything
and move on.
from Bungie on 2nd, and then it would be everything this side of 5th?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this side of 5th, because we made it from 2nd and 5th all the way to Adams.
Yeah.
But we're not doing 15, 20-year-old pavement.
No, we're
3, 5,
doing 3, 5, and 7 year pavement. When you get into the 15 and 20-year-old pavement, I just pass it because it's not, as well as anybody, it's not worth it.
You get a Monroe Street.
Exactly. You probably hurt them more than what you help them.
Yeah, you don't want the state to come in and do our streets like
So,
they did in Monroe.
It's a different process anyway.
Being that they're holding their price, I guess what I'm asking is, do you want me to bring the quotes back to the Board of Works? If it's, as long as it's under the 50, or do you want me to act on it?
The purchasing ordinance doesn't require it if it's under 50, is what you're saying.
Oh, over 10,
Over 10? it
Over
requires two
10.
quotes.
Board of Works, 49,999, or actually it's 50, I guess. Yeah, 50 and over is bid form 96.
Yeah,
Okay.
feel bid.
I don't really think we're going to be at the 50. I think it's probably going to be probably right under that, because I do have a section out by Fleetwood that's, I think I can preserve.
Well, obviously, my advice is to comply with the purchasing ordinance, so if you feel that we're going to be under the dollar amount that would require bidding in on Form 96, and just do the quotes,
Which you just did.
which you just basically
I
said,
did.
you've got quotes
Yeah.
at the same price as 16, you've got two quotes.
I've never ran into this where they've carried it to next year. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
You know, would there be any problem with capping the projects at a dollar amount? So-
No.
I mean, do you anticipate spending 45,000?
I would say
48,000?
roughly 47 and a half to probably 48. It could be lower than that. I don't have all the measurements done. But I would say cap it at 48 if it's more than that. Obviously, if it's less than that, it's better off.
Not to exceed 48.
You know, a lot of these streets down and through here has been sealed probably 5 years ago, so it's not going to take a whole lot. But the more and more you jump around, you kind of lose track of where you've been, and it catches up with you in a hurry.
Yeah. Well, you got two quotes. They just happen to be the same as last year.
Yeah.
So if it's not to exceed 48, then it makes sense.
Yep, exactly.
So
Go for it.
Okay.
You want a motion?
Yeah, I would say,
Yeah. I'll make a motion.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. What else?
Did you talk about the 5 points, the selection committee? You want to talk about that, or you want to do it later?
Go ahead. Yeah, that would be a good time.
I have the letter out advertised for NDOT for consultant selection. It's been advertised. We will do the selection, I believe it's the 22nd of February. Actually, we won't actually do it that day, but they're due back the 21st of February, sorry.
That's when they're due back?
Yeah. At that point, we need to form a selection committee and actually interview these consultant firms and score them like we have in the past. We've never really went through the full interview process, but I think this time it's probably a good idea with some rule changes and stuff that NDOT's had to do that, so.
5 points.
The rules haven't changed yet. We're still selecting, negotiating, not signing until at least April.
I think your selection committee was the Board of Works.
The last few years, it's been a Board of Works. We've decided this time we would probably mix it up a little. I don't think Ken and I definitely decided
You
100%.
said 5 people, you thought?
5
Yeah.
people. Excluding me. I know too many of these consultants. I'm not gonna score them.
And I will not be in town, so.
So there's applications are due back on the 21st. When would you anticipate doing it?
I would need to get the information out to whoever's on the committee and give them probably a week or so, or 2 weeks, however long that they feel.
So they can
need.
review and...
So
So
ideally,
that-
the first week of March, you would make
Yeah.
have a meeting and make a selection.
Yeah, depending on how many, you may get 6 or 7 firms.
We had a...
It's a lot of reading, so.
But
I mean,
but also at the same time we will
it really
be doing some short interviews, so that will also kind of speed the process up because you'll be able to ask
freaking
questions that you feel that you want to.
that thick and you get 6 of them.
We had a 5
So
points
it's
committee
redundant, but-
back when we went through Stellar. Melissa or you, can you guys either one kind of refresh me who all was on that? I know that Tony Murray,
Clint Tumbleson.
Candy Day,
Clint,
Mike Webb,
Andy, Mike Webb.
Max Miller, Deb Mishler. I'm guessing Mike Webb probably wouldn't be appropriate because
He lives there.
he lives.
And I don't think
in
Tony
the
would
area.
because works for a,
He works for an architectural firm.
yeah.
Mark Jesse would be out
Mark
because
Jesse
they're going
would
to
be out.
apply.
Yeah.
I think Clint would be a very,
Clint was on the committee.
he would be a,
A and Z now.
of all of those, I would have to think Clint possibly, if we want to have one person from there. Maybe Cam and I, and then a council member. That's 1, 2, 3, 4.
You're going to want basically council, board of works, mayor, and then some outside, whether it's committee member or whomever.
You volunteers?
I
volunteered.
It just, I'm just saying, it takes a lot of time because the brochures that they hand you, yeah, and you get 6 or 7 to do it properly. It's a lot of reading. I just,
But to help this time, Bill, we're actually going to interview that we
Okay.
hadn't done in the past. We're going to
Okay.
interview every one of them so you have a better sense.
No, he's going to be out of town. He knows who the board of work member is.
No, we're probably going to have roughly 6 or 7 on
He's
average.
covering for you the last 2
Five
weeks.
on scoring committee.
no, I just told you, that's why
That
I
way
told
there's
you.
an odd number.
If you have a project, I'll take care of it.
Oh, okay.
So,
Got it.
if we can get that worked out over the next month or so, we have plenty of time. So,
Okay, let me ponder this. But Tyler, you would volunteer, right? Count on it. And then you can kind of count on it too.
Hello.
And then I would say Clint Tumbleson,
Who wants me?
myself, and then I'll either put another council member on, or I might,
I gotta
Take one of the other.
we're talking about it.
yeah, okay.
One other thing before I get on to the back is next meeting or sometime in February, we need to do our annual ADA review. Normally we do that in January, and I've been a little hog-tied with some end of the year and beginning of the year stuff, so I wasn't quite prepared tonight to present that. At the same time, with our tracking software, with our pavement asset management plan and stuff, I'd like to have a little time at one of the board of works
Go on
meetings
it.
coming up to kind of explain to you
Where
where
and
we were,
why.
where we are, what we need to be kind of focusing on some projects. I think it's very informative for you guys, you know. We can all sit back and say, well, we ought to pave this, or we ought to do this, or we ought to do that, but once you see the maps of where the problems and stuff were last year, and some of the condition, the pavement ratings, you're gonna better understand some of our challenges and what we need to get accomplished over the next few years.
Do you have many people using that reporting?
There's a few.
We previewed it and actually demonstrated it at the State of the City thing, which had probably, how many people were there? I don't even know.
60 probably.
I think we just have to use it and continue to use it and have every department, train them to use it. And because I loved it when we were really using it because it was, I showed it to Ken one time. It just, all the complaints I would get would all be typed out. I'd have no reference to any neighbor or whatever because I didn't want that. And it was better than getting Post-its, which I used to get, and it was on my own fault. I'd throw a Post-it underneath something, and I'd forget all about the complaint. So yeah,
They said before this, everything was done on Post-it notes.
Is this a true grading scale, or is it a...
It's a phaser. No, it's a phaser training.
And I think we should have some type of a telephone process also, and I talked to you about that, and you thought you'd look into that, where somebody can actually, if they call a number, and they could actually go down and say if it's code enforcement, if it's water leaks, if it's this or that, they can go down and dial the number that their complaint is coming in on. And
I'm actually working with CenturyLink, and probably within the next week or so, our phone system will be upgraded. Well,
yeah.
The phone system that City Hall has here, where we can do the automatic transfers and
Yeah,
such.
that would be
And then
great.
figuring them out. I've been here a year. I don't know how to transfer.
Then we can also, it has the capability of adding what you're talking about.
Right.
You know, whether you choose to go to like a 311 at some point or whatever, you will have that capability of doing that long term.
Because that situation I had, if you recall, I had a person call me that had a water leak, that actually a pipe was busted, and they didn't know who to call and how to get it turned off or whatever. And I called you, and you weren't available at that time. And you said, just call 911. Well, because all your information, if you're not available, if they call 911, they refer to the person that you put on call or whatever. So,
working with Kip Pancake from CenturyLink, Kip's a local guy here. We're going to work out a lot of those details, and also at the same time, I do want to revisit the after-hours contact phone numbers, because nobody looks at the phone book anymore. You know, and it's very difficult when somebody that hasn't dealt with something after hours, for them to know what to do.
I don't know what
a lot of times they're calling 911, or there's been times that they just don't call anybody, you know, and it needs to be addressed right then. So whether it's an automatic forward to a cell phone or whatever, we need to do a better job at the after hours. We ran into a lot of trouble with the Sheriff's Department over the last several years. It's been better lately, but sometimes we just wouldn't get the information. Sometimes it would be 2 or 3 days later before we get the information, and it don't need to be that way. So, you know, when the police department was open, it was always a 3123 number. There was a dispatcher sitting there at the desk. It was their responsibility to call us out. Now that you don't have that, you know, we probably need to look at addressing some things with that. So, especially the amount of calls that dispatch is getting now. But they don't want to do anything until we get the phone system.
Right. Another thing, maybe we could, go ahead.
Well, this is unrelated to what Jeremy was just talking about.
So is mine.
Okay. Going back to your ADA report, with Title VI, do we need to do something with that as well?
No, we should be up to date for right now.
Okay.
Since we just implemented and adopted. Next year will be a little different situation. We will need to do a little bit more planning with Title VI, and I'm also doing the planning with ADA now as to what our implementation plan will be in 17. You know, for years we were either high or low, depending on the ramps. It was all coming out to the average of the 16. You know, we're going to do a lot better job and working forward on working with some contractors and getting a lot of the stuff done earlier to try to reduce, because we're gaining a lot of ramps with the new development. Well, every time you gain, that number shows to the good, but we're not necessarily gaining on the old
On the ones that need to be done.
on the old ones. And then when you see that you're hitting your goal, you know, you're a little bit more reluctant to, but it's something I'm going to do a better job at in 17 here. So.
And I was going to just say, why don't we just briefly mention to everyone here about the what we're kind of planning for Master Drive.
That was
Next thing on your list.
I do have a finalized plan for the storm sewer for Master Drive.
Let's back up, because Craig wasn't even on council at. Yeah, you were. Well, you know, if y'all remember last year, we had Nate Roomslag on staff.
Yes.
And Nate had these big plans for Master Drive. We were going to tear out all the sidewalks all the way down the east side, cut down every tree, and put in the new storm sewer up off the street. And
You chose to go down the middle of the street.
We chose another route, yes.
Which is a good idea.
Yes.
Yep. The storm sewer plans have been reviewed and approved. Merlin and I sat down. We met with Brett Miller probably 5 or 6 times in the field, verifying some potential unknowns. That's all been worked out. We went through the plan review, gave it back to Brett. He, it's approved set of plans. Go ahead and turn it into the real documents. On Friday, late Friday afternoon, I received a set of water plans for the water main replacement. I still need to get that reviewed sometime yet this week and sit down with Bill and Dan. So I would think probably 30 to 45 days we should be opening up bids, depending on the advertisement dates and such. Once we get everything back to Brett and say yay or nay on the water, you're probably looking at a late spring project time. The numbers, the estimates are a little higher than what I anticipated on, but going back through Nate's figures, he only had the contractor putting in the main line, didn't have him putting in any of the catch basins or any of the inlets or anything, which a couple of the contractors that were looking at it was really questioning why we only doing half the job.
Because of the elevation?
Well, just to try to save some cost. But you're going to be better off, if we can afford it, just to have the contractor put the inlets in, put the main line in, and go from there. But like I said, it is a little higher than what I anticipated, but we'll just have to see what the numbers are.
We would like, while we're putting in the new storm sewer, to do this water work also. I mean, it just makes sense. But it also costs more money. And we have to figure out whether or not we can swing all of it. And in addition to all of Master Drive, it would then go on Washington Street and head east down to 10th Street, correct?
Yes, it would go from basically behind Hannah Nuffin and tie into that 10, more under the highway and go all the way down to 10th Street to Hoosier Pattern and tie back into the line at 10th Street. Hoosier Pattern already has flow issues. They've expanded so much that they call periodically throughout the year, hey, do you have a leak someplace? We don't have any water pressure, or our water pressure's dropped. It's really hard to get a business to expand and to stay here if we can't supply them good service.
Advertising right now.
So it's definitely something. We've had a problem on Washington Street for a lot of years. Tim can vouch for it every time that. Tim's probably bought a couple sets of tires off of us for.
I don't know if you guys heard us talking up
because
here,
of us.
Next week Fleming's taking down the
was a quick trip.
old novelty building on Washington Street.
I think it's coming back out.
Friday they're going out and capping off the 2 big water lines that did the fire suppression system
For Wayne Novelty?
for Wayne Novelty. And then next week, and next week Fleming is who he hired. It'll be coming down. So.
Good.
So on your storm water, I know we don't want to overwhelm Tim Graff, but are you keeping him appraised of what's going on? Yep. We've met a couple times already. He's really starting to try to work himself in. He just basically said, you guys know what you're doing, just keep documenting, and he will get caught up at some point and meet with us periodically to make sure that he has what he needs to comply.
He emailed me today to see if I would be objected to paying Nate to come in and kind of go over some things. And I suggested that he ask Nate if he would just do it first. Yeah. And then if Nate says, no, I'll do it, but you're going to have to pay me, then I said, then we'll talk. But I would hope Nate would help us out. We'll see.
It seems like Tim's going to work out pretty well, so I've sat down with him a few times and we've talked about some things. And I can ask Nate if you want me to, Mr. Mayor.
Sure, that would be great. Yeah. Now, Tim may have already
take him to Indianapolis if he don't.
There you go.
A little bribery.
You got anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay.
You guys have something.
I think we...
Things are moving along, we're working quite a bit. The
Yep.
temperatures have been good, so.
Unreal.
Been keeping everybody busy, so it's
Yeah.
a weird January. The houses are just about taken care of. I think we're down to 2 houses. We had equipment failure yesterday on our Mini. It was already a wear item that got a little bit too much wear.
Parkview Drive
Yeah.
area.
So we'll be back up and running with that tomorrow. I would think by Monday we should be done with the houses. Some site restoration work. Talked with Rod on Friday. Rod's tickled to death. Rickenberger. So
He's easy to please.
He's
but-
very happy.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Melissa has been asked, I don't know, I guess maybe you can kind of give the board a report on what the latest is with Connect to Careers, because I don't think that's actually out to the public yet.
Ryan Noblett, the Executive Director of Connect to Careers, has resigned his position, and his last day will be the 28th, I believe, of this month.
27th, I think.
27th or 28th. So, Connect to Careers is actively in discussions with the Adams County Economic Development on ways to work together. In the meantime, they have some administrative tasks that they need some assistance with, and they've asked if I would be willing to fill in for a while. And with the understanding that I speak to all of you and let you know what's going on, and that work would not happen while I was
On city
here
time.
on city time, so
Yeah.
So you'd be paid by them after hours.
perhaps.
Well, I
What do you
don't
mean,
want
perhaps?
to just be used.
Perhaps the pay.
That's between her and Connect to Careers. She's a board member with Connect to Careers.
Right.
That's
And I was
between them.
involved with that organization prior to my starting this position, so it's not like I'm unfamiliar or I'm just involved with them because of my position here.
Just be cautious with your time.
Yep. So, I know, I don't have, I just said I'd run it by the Board of Works. Can, Bill, you don't have any issues with her?
No, as long as she doesn't burn herself out, I guess.
Right.
Would the money make a difference that we, the city, pays Connect to Careers, or is that a separate pot, what we contribute? I'm not sure.
You're asking if she gets paid?
Yeah, is that
Should
money
she
that
get
we
paid?
get from the city to Connect to Careers,
Oh.
is that her part of that salary? I don't know, maybe Ryan's from somewhere else. Does that come from somewhere else? That would be the only thing I would think would be a conflict of interest.
Who writes the check to Ryan?
I do.
You do? And
Well,
how
it's not
much?
to Ryan, it's to
No.
Connect to Careers.
It's to
That's our
Connect to Careers.
financial.
Yeah, our annual
We
contribution.
contribute to the
Right.
funding of it.
Right.
But he gets paid by work one, right?
Work one.
Oh, okay.
Well, all the municipalities contribute to
Right.
Connect to Careers' budget for the year.
Mhm.
But is Ryan's salary separate? Is it through Work One and not, I don't know. That would be the only issue I know.
It-
No, his money, the Connect to Careers pays Work One, and then Work One pays a paycheck and incorporates his benefits. So,
I'm not so concerned about the money, just can
time.
I help them out on my own time?
I'm fine with it.
I'm on
We
the
don't-
board, so I can't really...
Yeah, you really probably
I
should.
didn't know about this, but...
But you can still have an opinion, go ahead.
No, I mean, if it's on her own time, and what
Yeah,
she does
yeah.
on her own time,
I just want her to be careful with her time.
Right, not burn herself out. Which I tell her that all the time, anyhow, because she's go, 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 go.
if I can back up a little bit, but we've been in talks with Adams County Economic Development for well before Ryan took another position. So this is not, I don't think, a giant concern. This was ultimately part of the long-term plan to begin with. So I don't know that that's too much of a concern, but we'll see.
I think the agreement we had was, what, a 3-year agreement for funding?
Yeah.
And we're in year 2, right? So I think we have one more year of obligation. I don't know if the county will re-up after their obligation is over, regardless of who is at the helm of Connected Careers. So putting it through Adams County Economic Development could be the big kind of lifesaver, so to speak, I think, to save.
The county,
Well,
not Connected Careers, the county.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the issue is, I mean, I think the issue you have to look at is, do you want to fund workforce development? That's the question you have to answer. Is that important for our community, and do you want to fund workforce development, period? The reason it's currently going to Connected Careers is because that was the organization that stepped forward to do it, because at the time, it was not appropriate or didn't make sense to be under economic development. Things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the question that will be asked of everybody, is do you want to continue to fund workforce development?
Well, it was moving towards economic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think this development makes it even more,
Maybe sooner.
yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That is absolutely okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't know. I was not the last board meeting, so I didn't hear that, but I echo,
There's a few
like,
board members that are going to try to divide and conquer some of the tasks that need to be done in the interim, whatever's decided. Checking the mail, making sure First Fridays happen, making sure the
Changing their
classes
mailing
are
address.
filled when those classes do happen, that lunch is
Does
delivered,
she know about that?
things like that. So
Changing the mailing address?
yeah, we got her checked back.
Is the question that we're asking?
We got to
she's
do that.
asking-
Doing out the monument.
Letting us know that if she does something on her own time, it's probably not going to interfere with her
Yeah.
work that she does with the city. Is that what I apologize, I left the room.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
pretty much the
basically
question.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not so much asking permission as just
It's-
letting us know so that nobody
It's,
questions.
it's a board of directors decision. Okay, I mean, a board of works decision, you know, so, council don't come into play. But what she's asking the board of or the board of works is, if it'd be okay if she would do this on her own time, so.
I don't even think we need to vote on it. I just
No.
think it's making a matter of record that you're...
to just happen.
Yeah.
the board of directors for Connected Careers met last week.
What's not?
He's got another position. He took another position.
Just go for it and watch yourself. I mean, you know, that's all we can say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Did you have anything else for Board of Works?
I don't know what's being brought up. What do we decide to talk about Madison Street and Board of Works versus City Council?
Let's talk about it now. Get it out of the way. We got time. Madison Street. We're going to do Madison Street. So actually the one matter we have to take up at the council meeting, and that would be the agreement with JPR for the
Do you want
design.
that now?
We can kind of go over it, and
Do
you got
want
copies. So we'll
both or just the
You-
one?
get all of it. No, just the one, I would say.
Okay.
Do you want to hand them both out? I mean,
No,
just for...
I've got them both.
I can explain it. Go ahead, you got them, as I hand it out. Kevin McCrory gave us two prices. One is just for Madison Street. The other is for Madison Street, and if you look at the drawing over there, the Second Street area, half a block in both directions on the east side of the street, and then the alley down near your business, Matt, and the alley down near the old Marcos.
This map is in both of your packets.
Yep. And the price
Okay.
from JPR to do the one block of Madison Street
On the second page, it's highlighted. The top number is 75 and the bottom number is 52.
It's $52,500 plus a lump sum of $7,500 for construction administration services during construction period. All this is a not to exceed amount, okay?
Planning meeting tonight.
If we have him do the entire as proposed there, it goes up another 20,000 basically.
I may have missed, I probably did miss something here. You say we are doing it.
Yeah. We're doing Madison Street. Yeah, we voted, didn't we? It was the last meeting or the meeting 2 meetings?
Council.
Last meeting?
Wanted to continue whether we got the grant or not.
Yes.
Continue with the project.
Okay. Something to show for,
Yeah, we did that 2 meetings ago.
I thought it was too. I thought, Cam, you were here.
Yeah.
I slept since then. But I remember there being some discussion about it. I didn't realize it was
Should sit like
we're doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
So these prices here
Yeah.
normally would have been in.
We would have paid it anyway because if we would have received the grant, we would have had to pay
Yes.
Right,
this anyway.
right.
So
So my question would be, does the higher amount, going with the second option, which gives us the other thing, does that provide us with a working framework for the rest of Second Street, if we do that?
it does. Based on some finances, we're not sure we have enough to turn the corners.
Yeah, what we're looking at,
Yes, but
Yeah. But Madison Street itself gives you that.
gives us the template for
Template.
materials for the entire streetscape.
Yeah. You're right.
So
It's just that it would show more if it went out into Second Street.
Yep.
But,
depending on funding, that could be a phase 2 or
right.
we've been crunching some numbers, okay? In talking with Kevin, Kevin did send me, you want to pass that on down to Wiley? Kevin did send me a cost estimate, just an estimate only from his point of view, what it would cost to do the project. Broke it down item by item. And what he gave us was for the entire thing you see in the picture. Then you add his services on for that. And we said, now, listen, Kevin, we're not going to do this. The figures he gave us was if we were doing it through Okra with a grant, where there's more red tape. So we're not going to do it through a grant. We're going to do it on our own. He said, well, then you could immediately deduct 10%. So having deducted 10%,
So is that what this 10% is down here on this page?
No, I
Or
think
is that
that's,
something else?
that was an additional.
So it is a plus.
It could go to plus.
Gotcha. Yeah, never mind.
Melissa, how did we arrive at that 600, that top number on there?
if you remove Second Street in the alleyways, just the Madison Street block, we're estimating at $600,000.
Doing it ourselves, I mean, doing it, with local contractors, no grants. Then if you add in JPR's fee for just Madison Street of $60,000, if we include as a project, adding in the demo for the Schaefer building, okay, and installing the parking lot.
I guess
Go ahead.
Cam's walks down there, and I think you probably need to add up why you're adding these numbers up and what you're going to do.
Regional partnership.
You're trying to make an application for regional partnership to get these numbers as high as possible to get the most money.
Yeah, maybe we should have backed up and told you that we had a meeting with Michael Galbraith.
We met with him yesterday. He's the representative from the Partnership for Regional Cities.
It all comes together. Thank you.
So,
Thanks, Tyler.
we have some councilmen there, and Michael
Well,
came in
we
and
just made
spoke
these
with us
today.
about what kind of money's left. He told us to hurry.
He thinks the money will be
He
gone
thinks
out
the
by
money will be
15.
gone by...
Well, I just got an email today that the board voted to support 3 more projects.
So we're trying to see, like
Big
Tyler
dollar
said,
ones.
if we can get Madison Street, this block, because of the location that the Schaefer Building's adjacent, we could package that as a project because we know that the city's money is already there for it. That ups our total project cost, which ups the 20% that we can request as regional cities money. So that's why we're talking about those.
So we added in the cost of the demo and the parking lot of Schaefer, which was $275.
And we're allowed to do that?
And it,
We shared this with him yesterday, and he was very favorable about that it makes sense.
Yep, and
Because
we
the
asked him if
design
it
and the
went...
theme would follow over into where the Schaefer Building would come down.
Okay.
So they seemed agreeable.
Should Biggs get his funding, then he said, well, the money that we donate toward Biggs' project, then that would be privately funded funds going toward the project, because then Biggs would be paying for it. So he says, either way, whether it's through the city or through the Biggs project, we should be able to include it, because that was his feeling. So that's why we've added that in, which takes the total for the project up to $935,000. So then down at the bottom, we took all of our available sources to fund the project. The amount of money that we have in the capital campaign down at the foundation right now, the set-aside that we had for the Okra grant that we didn't get, and then there's another piece of information, is that in this packet also?
No, it is not.
Called Creating Places, or the Patronicity, if you will. It's a program through IHCDA, and they're working this program on a program very similar to like a GoFundMe account. And we could raise up to $50,000 through donations, and whatever amount we raise, they'll match it. IHCDA will. So it's any amount up to $50,000. And in talking with Wabash's mayor this afternoon, I asked him, the big question is when people make donations towards something like that, is it tax deductible? Can the city write a slip for a tax deduction? And he said to keep it all clean, they actually turn their application. Any 501c3 entity can do this, okay? They ran it through their Wabash Main Street program. So that might be a cleaner way for us to do this if Main Street would be willing to do this fundraiser and let Main Street do it. Main Street could send out the tax deduction forms to people as they donate. I'd like to do it and put in for the entire $50,000, and that gives another $100,000 to put toward the project.
Income for a 501c3 that I believe that would require different tax filings than what they're used to.
Why would...
So they would need to be advised of that and understand.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't use foundation?
Because the only applicants can be a municipality or a nonprofit, a 501c3.
Or 4.
What's foundation?
I don't know.
Tim?
You'd have to check with Connie on the tax status, but I'm pretty
We
sure
can
it's
check.
I think it's a 501c entity, because that's why the hospital used the foundation for their pass-through when they were doing the cancer building.
We can check.
Yeah, we definitely.
The only reason I say that is because we...
Already using them.
Yeah. Then it becomes the same, I guess what I'm thinking, unless you're trying to get more contributions.
Although, don't they take a small percentage for administrative fees,
The foundation does.
where Main Street would not?
No, we
And
sent letters out for contributions.
Hmm?
We sent letters out for contributions.
this program, the pass-through, the overall company up here, they take a 5% administrative fee.
Which is like the GoFundMe, but, you know,
So, and then there would be a fee that if you went online and donated, you can donate $100. Do you want your $100 less 3%, or do you want your $100 plus 3%? So I don't know what the foundation, if are people being double feed. It's something we can look at.
Yep.
Then the 50,000 has to be new money.
I mean, can this 235 count towards that 50?
What about-
Or does it have to be
The
coming in
foundation
new?
is a 501(c)(3).
Okay, the $253,000 is cash that the capital campaign has collected. The $50,000 matching money has to be new money.
Okay.
So we know through the capital campaign that many people have chosen to donate on a 5-year
Annual.
schedule.
That's what
So
I'm getting at.
the key to this would be to get with those donors about their 2017 contribution and say, we know you're going to donate this year. This is your chance to double your money, and coordinate that ask in that way.
And the money never really would go to the foundation, right? They do it online. It has to be done online.
But at the very end, when all the money's
Then the
been
money is-
collected, IHCDA would send their $50,000
To the foundation.
to the foundation. Plus, what has been collected, Patronicity then would cut a check for the 50 that was donated online.
And Phyllis just chimed in over here that we have written tax deduction certificates from the city in the past, so it could go directly through the city if we so chose to. And
Well, it's not so much that being the issue. The issue is patronicity is not a 501c.
But it would be set up that if you gave a donation, you're giving it to the city of Decatur. They're just having to collect it on our behalf, and then the check would come to the city.
Yeah, they're
we emailed
And
Ms.
we've
Veronica
confirmed this
from
with-
Patronicity, and that's what she
Yes.
told us.
When you're giving as a donor, you're giving to the city.
But you-
There's just a different collection.
Yeah,
Right.
you've answered my question in that they have to give it online to Patronicity.
Right.
What I was thinking was, if our people are committed to paying to the foundation through our capital campaign, why can't we just say, well, here's the new money coming in, using the same system that we have? The answer is it has
Has
to
to
be
go through
online.
Patronicity.
And there is a mechanism to collect offline donations and it still count toward that total. They have let us know that that can be accommodated.
But just
So-
using the system we have as is not going to work.
Correct.
Got it.
Now, looking at the numbers at the bottom again, then Jeremy went through this, again, it's just a rough estimate of what it would cost to do this, and pulled out, I don't know, 4 or 5 items on there that our city employees could do, like pavement removal, sidewalk concrete removal, curb removal, storm structure removal, and estimated that we could provide in-kind services of $40,000, or roughly in that range. And then you add in the budgeted money we have to put into the Schaefer, which is really $250, but we're putting $275 in there because that would then include the parking lot. And then the money that we could apply for through regional cities, which would be 20% of the $935,000 at the top, which would be another $187,000, bringing our total possible funds to $937,000, a few $1,000s more than we need.
Which would cover the project.
Yeah.
But
If
that,
everything goes
Yeah, if everything goes as planned.
all the dominoes have to
Yeah.
fall.
correct.
If Hoyle's in this, we're in good shape.
Trust me, Melissa and I have been playing with numbers.
Does this include branching out on?
This does not. This
strictly
is
on-
just
I gotta go
Madison
down there with my
Street.
feet again.
But if we were to do Second Street, we could take that same thing.
And that is the intent.
Absolutely.
How much more was that?
Couple $100,000.
About a 200,000
Yikes.
Now,
ish. Now,
Engineering.
are you gonna?
yeah, I looked through some of the bid estimates. I don't know how closely you looked through the numbers there, but to me, I know there's probably a committee that put all that together, but they want Madison Street to be all pavers, and that's $237,000 for pavers, when you could probably do stamped concrete for half the price or a fraction of the price. I know you want it to look nice, but in the same token, too, some budget constraints would help you go out other ways. I'm 200,000 pavers to me sound like a headache. I don't know if Jeremy has any
Sounds like weeds.
but they're going to pour a concrete base under it and then put pavers on top of it. But heaving and trucks driving across the top of pavers.
No.
I know it's supposed to be more pedestrian, but cost-wise.
And maintenance-wise also. So are there some other options that we could look at, knowing that we don't have the luxury of the Okra grant now? That it maybe, could we do a mix of pavers and some stamped concrete, or maybe think a little more creatively in how to best stretch the money?
Now, having said that, I'm going to cut this short, and what we want to do is, when we go to the council meeting, we want to ask council's consent for her to pursue the creating, what's it called?
Creating places.
Creating places, okay? Let her pursue it, not knowing all the rules yet, but as long as everything's within the, pretty much what we discussed this evening, we're going to ask for your approval for her to go ahead with that.
The capital campaign group meets in the morning,
Yes.
and they're kind of the group that's,
Yeah, with their
we need
blessings.
to let them know about this and
Yeah.
get their input, and so we're not going to apply without that knowledge and then with city council's blessing on it.
And then we're also going to ask if it's, you know, for permission to allow Melissa to start working on paperwork for regional cities funding. And then lastly, we're going to ask for council approval to okay Kevin McCrory's bid for the design work,
For the lesser
for the lesser amount,
it's
for just for Madison.
Madison Street.
As much as we'd like to do the whole thing, I think that,
And you know, bid might come in low, we don't know, and there might be an option
yeah, and what
to-
we've asked Kevin is if we, that's why we asked him to do it both, to give us bids both ways, and we didn't get it, he was out of the office today, but we called for him and we also emailed him and said, hey, if we sign a contract for just the Madison Street, and then when bids come in, if they come in lower, can then we then add the balance? And we think he probably would say yes.
with maybe a few modifications on his fee,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if we've got the money, we might as well do it while there's
So we would wait
construction happening.
and hope bids come in cheap, low.
Ken, do you got an extra one of those call sheets?
I do not. This is the last one I
I don't
got.
have that. though.
This one?
This one?
Yeah.
You can borrow mine.
So it
Here, you
says
can have mine.
project should have prior commitment funding before participating.
I'm sorry, what?
This project should have prior commitment funding before participating. Do we know where we're taking this fund from?
Yeah, from the donations. We get $50,000 of donations, and then IHCDA will give us the balance.
Okay, so it's all donations
Yeah.
and that, okay.
Jeremy?
Also keep in mind with, if you do pursue the Madison Street project, you're gonna have to do something with the water main. So that's gonna be some additional fees. I'm not certain-
That wasn't on his estimate?
I'm not certain where Dan's gonna be financial with water, with a lot of
Master
different
Drive
projects that
project.
are coming up. That's something we could do in-house, it'd probably be pretty minimal, but just please keep in mind that that definitely has to be done.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Before
in
you do a
fact,
project
I
like
thought it
this.
was part of
No.
the,
It was,
It's not.
the original budget was from the Okra grant, and those are two things that couldn't be mixed together.
$30,000 is storm pipe,
Storm pipe coming in that.
30,800. Yeah, I'm not sure.
But we're talking water lines, right? Are you talking water?
water.
Yeah.
I'm saying in this quote, there's $30,000 worth of storm pipe.
And we're gonna have to discuss that with him on Thursday to see exactly what he was doing. And
Okay.
all that's through the sewer separation project. So there shouldn't really be much there. I would have to discuss it with Berlin before Thursday, but there shouldn't be much there with the sewer.
If we did have the ability to round the corners, what utility concerns would we have on the sidewalks? Yeah,
Now,
that's not taken into consideration at all, is it?
I'm trying to get to a conference at the end of December, or the end of January, to meet with a couple people that may be able to line that water main instead of replacing. That water main currently runs, basically right up against the buildings under the sidewalk.
Yep.
So when it does leak, it floods the basements. and it's 100 or better years old.
I guess that's,
On the north side of the road?
Both.
so we,
This side along the front edge of these buildings.
I guess that would be my big, like, I would love to do those streets, or the sidewalks on the Second Street, but if we're not prepared to do that, then it's not even really worth talking about.
No.
This is going to be minimal. This is probably only a week's worth of work for us. And as cheap as we put pipe in the ground, doing it in-house, and it's way below the bid specs and way below the bid amount, so that would require us to bid it. We could do this really, really cheap and get that out of the road. I'm just throwing it out that, be prepared that it's an additional cost, but I'm not 100% sure the utilities are going to be...
I thought it was part of the plan.
Be up front and being able to take care of it.
Hey, when's your conference?
The end of January. They offer a process now that they give you a 50-year guarantee that a lot of these areas like the downtowns and such where you can't be out of service, they will actually line the inside of the pipe. They will actually backfeed the businesses off of other water supplies, off of other streets. It's a little bit of an inconvenience, but people still have water. But you're not doing a common excavation. You're just going through and replacing the lead services that there are lead.
What do they use to line it?
It's like a pipe lining. I'm not 100% sure what the material's actually made out of.
Okay.
I sat through a presentation in the spring at Parkview Field on this same process, and talking with the guy, he said he was going to be at the conference at the end of January down in Indianapolis.
Okay.
And they were actually going to do more demonstrations and have more stuff there than what he had at Parkview Field.
Okay. About 7 or 8 years ago, the pool at the high school, we did that because it was under the pool.
Yeah, it's probably very, very similar.
How
You
large
actually
is
will go
that?
block to block and dig the main up, cut the main off. They'll actually go through and clean and basically root the main out, pull all that stuff back, and actually put a liner
Inside.
in the inside of that pipe. But there's also like a robot that goes through there and finds all the services, and then actually cuts those services out. Goes down to the next one, cuts it out. It's really, really slick. Dan and I and Bill have talked about that out here. It's something
You
that
told
I
me
think
about
you would really want to do.
If it could be.
There'd be less tear up and less, ultimately less cost.
There's no excavation other than in the intersections.
Yeah.
You have to go block by block and dig the pipe up and cut the pipe off
Okay.
to be able to access it.
It's like directional boring.
Similar, yeah. But they're using the existing pipe and
Right.
lining it.
Right.
How large is that line underneath the sidewalk, Jeremy?
I'm not sure how big that one is. It's pretty good size. It's either an 8 or a 12.
And if they cut the lines off servicing the buildings, where do they get that water?
They will either bring water in or they will go basically to the next block. They like to do this in the summer months where they can backfeed. Basically, they take food grade garden hose and they hook to the supply and backfeed it back through, either run it in the building or back through like yard spigots or whatnot to supply. It's only just a couple day process. Some of the businesses, some of the towns, they have no problem because the businesses are closed. They do a lot of the stuff on the weekend and such, so.
All right, Bill, I'm sorry. You're going to leave us and you're going to go out of state, and we'll talk code enforcement one of these days.
Well, it's nothing that these people are going to do in the winter months anyway,
Right.
so I don't think there's a...
So we'll have to come back to that.
But I think what we need to do before I leave, I'd certainly like to do the trailer park.
Okay.
I mean, I think we ought to get on top of
Stay
that.
on that one.
I think. These homes, I just need what direction to go, but they're not going to have the ability to do anything, paint or do anything in the winter months anyway, so we can do this in April, May, but
Did you get out to the mobile home park in the last 2 weeks? I asked the question of how many actually are occupied.
no, I haven't.
Okay.
But
Got you to that.
Jeremy has told me he'd help me, so it's just a matter of going out there.
But I don't know if they have a manager there,
They do, you ran to them, right?
but I think that they'd be the question.
A local manager?
They'd be the person to question how many, huh?
Trailer park.
On Cottonwood.
Cottonwood, yeah.
Well, we need to, the mayor would like to find out how many are rented, how many are owned in the park. As far as counting the vacancies and counting the people that live there, we can do that. But I don't know about the rentals and that, so. If we had, Jeremy said he'd help me, so if we have somebody that we can get a hold of and kind of ask them that question.
When do you leave, Bill?
16th of February.
Okay. So you'll be here at our next meeting, yes?
All right, maybe we can just shelf this and
But we'll talk mobile homes next meeting.
maybe
count
let's
on
do that, and then I'll have everything available then.
Okay. All right, if nothing else, it's that time, and I need to look for a motion to adjourn the Board of Works meeting.
So moved.
Second, yeah.
Motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed, the same. We're adjourned.